No Punt Intended Fantasy Football Highlights brought to you by Axe Body Spray. Make all the women flock away from you. And with the season opener finally behind us, we'll take a look at a team who is feeling pretty flocking good about themselves. None other than Sacks in the City. The legendary queen of the scoreboard rode into the 2019 season, getting the revenge she so highly sought after in a Week 1 League Championship rematch against the Flying Spaghetti Monsters. It was a relatively pedestrian performance by both teams, but in the end, some late game time fire by quarterback Matt Ryan helped put Sacks in the City over the top in a Week 1 victory. The queen of the scoreboard will look to strut her stuff in style in Week 2 as she gets set to take on yet another longtime division rival, the Bama Boat Snacks. The Demon Barber of Fifth Fleet was able to maintain momentum from late last season that earned them enough buzz to be named the 2018 Comeback Squad of the Year, as he was able to avoid an offensive explosion by the constipated Leather Daddies after some of the most entertaining trash talk ever between the two teams. We'll see which Eastern Division veteran has enough firepower to maintain their perfect record in this heated rivalry. And speaking of division rivalries amongst league veterans, we'll take a look at the Western Division as the Bellingham Bimblossays get set to take on the ATLians. The Bimblossays seemed seemingly set for a successful start to their 2019 campaign in spite of a tall order ahead of them, as they got on their knees and welcomed former six-time fantasy football champion Tom Schroeder and Da Vinci's Earbiters to their No Punt Intended Fantasy Football League debut. It was a display of absolute offensive fireworks for both the Bimblossays and Da Vinci's Earbiters, as both teams had a combined 6 offensive players with 20 or more fantasy points. But in the end, the Bimblossays defense just could not take the pounding, as they allowed the Earbiters to gnaw on their lineup extremities in a route to a loss for the classiest hoes in fantasy football to begin the 2019 season. We'll see if the Bimblossays can spread their playbook legs just a little bit further wide open as they get ready to face an old familiar foe in hopes to erase this blemish on their early season record. The ATLians were also in a prime spot to shine in their second ever fantasy football campaign as they welcomed fantasy football rookie Josh Brown and the Chocolate Herd into their first ever virtual gridiron appearance. But a late comeback attempt by rookie quarterback Kyler Murray stiffed the Sifmeister as the Chocolate Herd trampled their way through the competition. It's a complete 180 for the first interdivision matchup of these two teams, as both teams were undefeated in their first battle in last year's inaugural No Punt Intended fantasy football season. We'll see if the ATLians can extend his probe into the Bimblossays and extract a win in Week 2. Moving right along, it's another Western Division tilt as rookie sensation Josh Brown gets set to lead the Chocolate Herd in their home opener against Jason LaRoche, aka Coach Clapp, team owner of Y. Now, as mentioned before, the Chocolate Herd absolutely balled out in their fantasy football debut, despite a tough road matchup against the ATLians. And now, they'll have home field advantage against yet another worthy opponent, but we'll see if the black male strippers can avoid the clap and prove that their debut was anything but beginner's luck. Y entered the second week of the 2019 season after a hard-fought battle against the IT Crew in a game dubbed the Battle of the Jasons, as the game came down to the final minutes with a razor-thin margin. But alas, a late touchdown by star quarterback Deshaun Watson was enough to put the Dr. Pepper Guru over the top in an electric Week 1 victory. We'll see if Y can keep doing pretty good and strip the Chocolate Herd of their pride, potentially putting the rookies in their place. Up next in our Western Division battles heading into the second week of the 2019 No Punt Intended fantasy football season, it's our official game of the week in a battle of brains versus bites as the IT Crew gets set to take on Da Vinci's Earbiters. The IT Crew makes his second consecutive Game of the Week appearance heading into Week 2 after a heartbreaking loss in the Battle of the Jasons that saw the IT Crew losing by the narrowest of margins of any team in Week 1. The IT crew will look to review all of the data once again and put together the perfect equation for his first win of the season. Meanwhile, the Earbiters enter Week 2 after establishing the same kind of dominance early on in their league debut that led their team owner to 6 fantasy football championships in seasons past, as they were able to have their way with the Bellingham Bimblases. We'll see if Da Vinci's Earbiters can gnaw their way through the IT crew's security system en route to a second consecutive victory. Up next, it's an Eastern Division battle between the Constipated Leather Daddies and Money Team. The Leather Daddies hoped to be the 4th of the league's newcomers to earn a victory against one of the league's veterans in Week 1, as they took the virtual field with their fecal leather pads strapped on tight. But it was the Bama Boat Snacks who ended up dominating, resulting in a sharp decline in Leather Daddy jersey sales at Total Fallacy. We'll see if the Constipated Leather Daddies can lube up and avoid another loss as they get set to take on the number 1 overall ranked squad. Money Team enters Week 2 counting their stacks and making it rain after an incredible league debut, as they were able to blind Tebow's Before Hoes with their bling en route to a victory with a deficit over 80 points. A celebration at the Hoppy Couple's personal tap room followed, and we'll see if Money Team can stay sober long enough to string together yet another impressive performance. Last, but certainly not least in our Week 2 matchups, it's a battle for pride as the 2 dead last ranking squads in the league get set to face off. It's Tebow's Before Hoes getting set to take on the St. Louis Lot Lizards? That's right, not the Flying Spaghetti Monsters, the St. Louis Lot Lizards. Defending league champ Rick Horn came forward after being found guilty of league tampering, along with being the sole assailant in the sexual assault of the Bellingham Bimblases in Oak Harbor, Washington this past summer. And so, the team was forced to relocate from Pastafaria to St. Louis, thanks to a partnership with Stan Kroenke in an attempt to save the team's season, as well as righting a wrong in the city of St. Louis. We'll see if a change of scenery can help the Lot Lizards slither their way into their first victory of the season. Meanwhile, Tebow's Before Hoes enters Week 2 after a highly disappointing league debut, being the only other team to score less than 100 fantasy points. Many suspect this to be a product of such a risky draft after team owner Kyle Curry was able to temporarily sign Melvin Gordon and Antonio Brown. Reports from the league's tabloid suspect that the latter is primed to return to the team this week in hopes for Tebow's Before Hoes to keep their pimp hands strong, giving the defending Eastern Division and league champion their second consecutive loss of the season. That's it for your highlights from the No Pun Intended Fantasy Football League News Hub. Be sure to check your lineups ahead of Sunday's games, and we will see you on the virtual gridiron.